Well, Matthew chapter 24 is truly a striking chapter of the Bible. It really is. Let's have a look at it. Matthew 24 verse 1, Jesus left the temple and was going away when his disciples came to point out to him the buildings of the temple. But he answered them, "You see all these? Do you not? Truly I say to you, there will not be left here one stone upon another that will not be thrown down." This is a shocking statement by Jesus. The temple is the pride and joy of the Jewish people at this point. It's a magnificent structure. It's the place of sacrifices. It's a place of worship. And yet Jesus foretells a devastating event where not even one stone would be left upon another. Well, obviously, it's not surprising that that would provoke concern and questions from the disciples. Let's have a look at what the disciples asked. As he sat on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, "Tell us, when will these things be, and what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?" So the disciples want to know, well, Jesus, when is the temple going to be destroyed? And while they're at it, they're looking further ahead. Or they're probably thinking that the two are going to happen. Something so terrible has to be associated with Jesus' return. They don't realize there's a 2,000-year gap. But they want to know, when will the temple be destroyed, and what is the sign of your coming and of the end of the age? So that's significant. They want to know the sign. And the word sign there, Bill Mounce, the Greek scholar, points out that sign has that idea of a sign, a token. It's an indicator of something that is going to happen. So they want to know the sign. Now, some people would say, well, look, Matthew 24 has already been fulfilled. It's the view that everything Jesus says after this was pretty much fulfilled in the lifetime of the disciples. And Jesus here is not talking about end times. That simply doesn't fit, because even though the temple was destroyed, did Jesus come back? Did the end of the age occur then or in AD 70? Absolutely not. So Jesus gives signs. Some of those signs we see indications of fulfillment in the first century, but not all of them, because Jesus foretold a great tribulation that would surpass anything. That did not happen in AD 70. Jesus gives the disciples a string of signs that would precede his coming and the end of the age. False messiahs, wars and rumors of wars, famines and earthquakes, persecution, many false prophets arising, the gospel of the kingdom preached to all nations, great tribulation, surpassing anything that had ever happened and never to be equaled again, and great cosmic disturbances. So Jesus gave these signs to the disciples. So we got to beware of going to the extreme of thinking, well, if there are signs we're meant to be looking for, and we are meant to be looking at these signs, we are meant to be noticing the things that are going on in the world today and all the upheaval and where things are going with false Christs and so on. And we are meant to notice those things. However, we shouldn't go the next step and say, well, maybe by looking at the signs, I can actually figure out the date. Maybe I can sort out actually when Jesus is coming, and I'll bank on that, and I'll even preach that, as some people do. That is wrong, because having just given them the signs, have a look at what Jesus says further down. He says, concerning the day or hour, what's next? No one knows. No one knows. So don't get to thinking that you can figure out the day or hour, because Jesus has said it here. It's in black and white in our Bibles. No one knows. And then he says down in verse 44, you also must be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an hour you do not expect. So that's the important thing. We've got to have these two things in balance. Number one, we are observing the world situation. We are aware of signs. We know Matthew 24. We know Revelation chapter 6. So we are putting two and two together. That we have it. It's like having the Bible in one hand and a newspaper in the other. We are seeing the signs. We're meant to see them. But then we're not making crazy predictions about the exact time of Jesus' return when he's already said to us, no one knows the day or hour. So these are two things we need to hold in balance. Are you ready? Am I ready for Jesus' return? Are we ready for a possible upswing in persecution, including in the Western world? We need to be ready. We need to be walking closely with the Lord one day at a time, because no one knows what tomorrow holds except God. And so things could change dramatically very quickly. So now is a time to be ready, walking closely with him.